This here is episode 1, and it's called Spill It at Vivian's, of course. And you are my first interviewer.
Do I get
right?
spilled first?
Yeah. So, you want to tell everybody your name, or should I tell them?
You can tell them. I mean, I can't remember it.
Oh, it's Myron Natwick. How's that? Is that close enough?
That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Myron Natwick, yeah.
Yeah. You'll go by that?
I have it written down. Let me just check. That's right. You're right.
Okay,
Myron
I did
Natwick.
good.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to start asking you a couple of easy questions. How long you been in the studio business?
I don't know. How old are you?
Well, I'm 76.
Well, I've been in it that long.
Really?
Yes.
Damn.
I was very short at the time.
You were?
Yes.
You grew some?
You're not, when you say gruesome, you don't mean me, do you?
No. No, you said you were short at the time, and I
you're
thought maybe you grew
talking
some.
about, you're talking about like that. Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I got taller.
Yeah, because this is not a who's on first question.
Who is on first?
Anyway. So, you've been around a long time doing studio work, so I need to know a couple of interesting things that you've done. I know that you did some things with Disney work, and I looked at your bio, and you've done over 150 different jobs.
Well,
hundreds actually, more.
I got arrested for some of them.
Yeah.
They were bank jobs, but...
Well, you know what? I watched some of them.
Yeah?
And you should have been arrested.
Yes. Well, I was.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't pay me.
Yeah. I understand why.
That's right.
But you did some pretty interesting ones, I noticed.
Well, several months ago, or maybe it was just a month or two ago, a manager called me and said they want to interview about a movie that you did back in 1975. But I really couldn't remember it, but I got the information. It was called The Dead Talk Back. And now, I don't want you to think I'm referring to myself, but that was the name of this lady, this producer. She was very much interested in mystical things. And she saw me, and boy, this guy's really mystical. And I didn't know what she was talking about, but she signed me on. At any rate, and I was interviewed, and it was just kind of like this. The strange thing was, they wanted to interview me, and I thought they wanted to talk about the show. He wanted to know, how did you start in the acting business? And I told him that, well, actually, I was living in a little town called Cantonment, Florida. I was living with my mother and father, and a couple of brothers. And I had an opportunity to go to Fordham in New York, the university, or go to USC, because I was playing a little football, but I realized that my competition down there was a little less than there could be at USC. But anyway, I did come out to USC because I had an uncle, and his name was the same as mine, Myron Natwick, except he used Grim Natwick, and he was an animator. He did Snow White and Fantasia and Raggedy Ann. So I came out and hung with Grim, waiting for spring practice at USC. And so Grim also was the originator of Betty Boop.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a little union problem, and so he went with another animator down to Florida. Not to the little town I lived in, but to another place called Miami. You may recognize that more than Cantonment. So he's down there, and he developed this lovely young lady called Betty Boop. And she had a lot of fans, lots and lots of fans. There was something about Betty, sort of coquettish and sort of naive as well. It's like one time I'm in New York at the summer stock, and who is now the major man up there, but Cary Grant. And I also had done a show with Julia Mead. And Julia Mead was the gal who would open and shut refrigerators on the Ed Sullivan Show. And so Julia came by and she said, "You want to meet Cary?" I said, yeah, that'd be great. It's like meeting, I was going to say a president, but maybe a little above the presidential attribute. And so I sat and had a fun chat with him, and I don't know what this has to do with Betty Boop. I happened to one day be over at Screen Gems. I think I was doing something. Elvis was there, and then there was another fella, you know, the one who did the science fiction books and stuff.
Oh, you mean L. Ron Hubbard? That guy?
Yeah, he said, let's have a drink. So, you know, Elvis and me and he and...
Really?
Yeah, it was...
That must have been something.
Well, I knew nothing about Hubbard.
Right.
But Elvis I was familiar with.
Sure.
It was a very interesting meeting, you know.
I find it interesting that you met those two. And I need to tell you my version of those two guys, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. In about 1968, I was married with a couple of kids, and I was living in Hampton, New Hampshire. And Elvis Presley was going to play at the Boston Gardens.
Oh, yeah.
And a friend of mine got tickets. He got tickets for he and his wife and me and my wife at the time. And by the time we got up here, about 4 tiers up, I could just barely see the stage. I was so bummed out, I sat there and cried for 5 minutes.
Really?
When he came out on stage, it could have been a chimpanzee on stage. I couldn't see him. He was so far away. And so the other guy I never met either.
Hubbard,
I never met him, but I ended up doing his technology. I found it in Fort Lauderdale in about 1983.
Yeah.
And I liked it, and so I started doing it, and then I continued. I still do it. Learning the technology, I also started taking courses on how to do Dianetics, which was the first aspect of Scientology. I've always been fascinated by it. Tell me, of all the things that you've done, what was your most enjoyable movie? And then I want to go from your most enjoyable movie to your most enjoyable TV role.
Way back, I was a dope addict on Days of Our Lives, that soap opera, for about a year. And they were always trying to get me to be better, but I never got better, and they canned me. But anyway, and then, just for fun, I was Conan O'Brien's father on The Tonight Show for a while, until he was canned. He walked away with 40 million, and I walked away with an empty purse. So, anyway.
That wasn't fun.